Hello, I'm Nan McKay. Welcome to Trailblazers Impact Podcast with inspiring stories of women who created new paths for other women to follow. Our website is trailblazersimpact.com, and you can contact us at hello@trailblazersimpact.com. Hello, this is Nan McKay, and I would like to introduce you to Rosemarie Harris. Rosemarie is a principal in Secured Systems Consulting, her own company, and she is an expert in one of the HUD areas. I think that one of the things that we should start with, Rosemarie, is where you started, and you started out with a big company. What are some of the challenges in working for a big company like that? How many employees did they have generally about?
A lot. Thousands across the country.
Okay, so really big company.
Yeah, it became very massive with all the different acquisitions that happened. So I think we had to get everybody speaking the same, marching to the same tune.
So what would you say are some of the big challenges of working with a big company like that?
Having them understand the importance of what we were doing and being able to know what the protocol was that we needed to take care of in order to meet our goals. Because if we weren't all on the same page, then we didn't know what was happening and somebody could say something that they should not say.
Did you have more than one boss is working there?
Yeah, I had total at least close to a dozen bosses.
Yeah. 12 bosses?
Yeah, 12 bosses over 22 years.
And was that a challenge for you?
Yeah, it was definitely, you had good ones, you had different ones that challenged you. I had some that were really helpful and I learned a lot from, and I would even say I would learn things from the ones that were rather difficult too.
So what do you feel is one of the big contributions that you made while you worked there?
We cleaned up the reporting that we were doing, and we were getting everybody to maintain the properties. We had apartment communities that were needing more focus. And so I think we were aware of all the things that were the challenges, and it wasn't being hidden. We were on top of everything. We were forecasting out to know when we were having inspections at the properties or what the challenges were at specific properties. And we were communicating that clearly to HUD, what we were doing, being very proactive.
Now, what made you leave the big company and start your own company? Did you do that right away, or did you?
Yes, I did. Well, I was there for a while, and over the years, they changed where they were going. So they were away from affordable, and so they were selling off all the affordable. So they grew really huge, and then they decided to sell all that off. So as more and more of that happened, I took on different responsibilities. So I took on grants. I worked the grants for a while, and then I took in ancillary services because I had prior experience in the national accounts working with different suppliers. So I did telecommunication type contracts and laundry contracts and rooftop antenna and all those fun things.
So did you go back to the company? That you had left after they were sold?
No, I did not.
So how did you went from there to your own company?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Because I did have, this was my first love, but it was more of, I liked it more how I was helping people out in the field and working with them on things. Wasn't necessarily helping corporate or these transactions, because I feel I have a more sense of helping the industry. People are really in a tight spot and they just want to get their reporting done properly and submitted to HUD and get approved. They want their approval and they want to work through things. But I try to bring people in so that they are doing it in a proactive way, not a reactive way. I don't work that way, never have. It's always, I want to know what the issues are and let's address them now. ahead of time.
So, what was hard about starting your own company? That sounds like a scary thing to do, was it?
Yes, it was very scary. It was, what was it? The first thing was the big step was just filing with the Secretary of State and then getting the website and
But what about money?
well, I had a little bit of money put up. So it was getting going and just persevering. I had a lot of people I've known over the years that were helpful to guide me along and point me in the right direction. And I've dealt with a lot of different law firms, dealt with lenders. So it wasn't like I was starting something fresh and brand new. It was something that I was already established in.
So, did they help you find businesses to
Well,
use your services?
right. I think some of it had to do with the website. I developed a newsletter and just a lot of calling people and just connecting, and people that I had prior work with did their recommendations as to my experience and the things that I had helped the company along, so that they knew that other people knew that I wasn't just somebody just fresh off the street trying this out.
Who would you say, thinking back in your life, impacted you the most? Not necessarily your work life, just in general.
Probably my mom.
And how did she do that?
My mom, I'm the youngest of 7. So she had a tough time there back in the early 70s. They bought the house that I grew up in, and right after that, they had passed busing in our town. So everybody sold their houses and moved to another area. But she was trying to deal with, there was a lot of turmoil that time in the country with Nixon and all those fun things with Vietnam was still going on. And she had a bridal business. My father worked at General Motors and my mom had a bridal business. So she always worked out of the home for quite most of my childhood. And then she went out of the home and opened up her own shop. She dealt with a partnership that went bad, and then she came back in the home. But she made it really big when her bridal dresses and that were featured on a local talk show. Yeah. So she was very talented. She could copy a picture. She didn't have to have the pattern or anything like that. And so just watching, being in that environment where you're seeing people being met regularly, because brides would always come over to the house and get their dresses custom made by my mom. But just her whole handling of the customers and getting them what they needed, to watch that and to be in that environment. It was it wasn't just she's a housewife, but it was more of she was taking care of things just as much as my father.
And she became a real role model for you then.
Yeah. Well, she had 7 kids too she was dealing with.
Oh, that's a lot.
I had 5 brothers, 1 sister. It was a lot of taxi driving as well.
Taxi driving and probably just corralling everybody at home while clients came over and they had to be quiet. Was that part of it?
Yes. We all had to go in the kitchen.
And what do you think you got out of that? What did that instill in you?
Just a work ethic, because I remember sometimes she would get up really, really early. She had to get a lot of bridesmaid dresses done. I mean, she would do the whole wedding party, so it was a lot of work. And just the final touches, and every time, it was probably 9 times out of 10, she'd have a bride that either lost weight or gained weight at the last minute. So, I mean, it was nice though seeing that she was there though, it wasn't like she was not there. And so it's kind of nice though that I'm there now with my kids.
And how do your kids feel about the work-life balance throughout your career?
I think they like it now better than before. I will say that. I did make them a priority though. I did work an earlier shift. I generally, because I was always, when I was working for my former employer, I was always dealing with headquarters, and the lady that I was dealing with at headquarters came in early. And I knew that I had her backline telephone number. And so I knew I could contact her on that line first thing in the morning, and I could get things addressed. Because I did a lot of things for her to make sure our reporting was tailored to her needs. And I just tried to keep that relationship up. And then it just helped me because I was able to, the kids went off to daycare early, and then I was able to pick them up earlier and be home to make dinner and all that. So I've always done that. I've always cooked, always taken care of those responsibilities and that. But there were times where I had to fly off places and not be around, and I think they liked that sometimes, though. There was some things that happened when Mom wasn't there.
That you find out later, sometimes a long time later.
Yeah, well, I come back in the office, and the ladies in the office say, "Okay, now what happened while you were out of town?" But I had some really nice ladies that worked with me as well, and they were a great support.
Have you ever faced discrimination in your career?
Well, I would say, what was it? I when I got pregnant for my son Nathan, I had to be up on a panel in DC here, and I was on a panel with headquarter people, and I was hiding my pregnancy. I hadn't even told my company yet because I didn't know how that would be received. So I wouldn't say it was discrimination. I just didn't know how they would receive that.
Well, back then, it almost was a problem if you got pregnant.
Well, this is like 90s though, or early 2000s,
okay.
but still. Well, I had in 2001 because I had Nathan in 2001. I still did not know. I didn't see a whole lot of how that company reacts to that.
What did you find out?
Well, it was well received, but I mean, I told him in July. I was having that baby in December.
Plenty of time.
Yeah.
Get ready.
But I didn't know there. But I did have some things that were sort of not supportive. And I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily as a woman or anything like that. I think I had an environment where I had some young ladies that came into my department that had that entitlement feeling, like they got their degree. Where's my $100,000? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm from the work ethic. I've been working since I was like fourth grade doing a paper route. And I'm like, where are these people coming from? I'm not making 100,000 yet. And to think that it's just going to be handed, or that you're just going to start climbing up that ladder. And it doesn't necessarily work out that way. Sometimes you don't get the titles you think you're going to get. And some companies hand out titles, and those people don't maybe have those types of responsibilities. And others maybe should and don't. It just depends. But if you do something that you're good at, then sometimes it's worth persevering through things. And other times you may want to be happier and just go somewhere else. Because sometimes it just gets down to maybe finding that right supervisor too, that you have a fit with.
So do you think a supervisor does impact your career?
Yes. They can help or they can suppress. And when you're in a suppressed environment, sometimes I've had one or two that were like that, but I've had one that was like a micromanager. But I learned things from those people, and I did persevere through it. But I have ones that really promoted and helped me along and guided my career. I guess you have to learn how to take the good and the bad and make.
So you learn from both of those situations.
Yes, because you get strength from it. If you always have it easy, you're never going to grow.
And the people that felt that they were entitled, may have just run away in a sense or left when they felt that they just didn't get what they wanted right away.
What ended up happening is one of them was like passive aggressive. And it was like she was sort of being like a mean girl to one of the other ladies on our staff. And she just ended up, when we were having our discussions about that type of behavior, she just ended up a week or two later deciding she was going to go.
And maybe in the long run, it's the best thing.
Yeah.
In those situations. But I think people don't always realize, hey, you have to prove yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just come in and have it right away. Often you have to work for it.
Right.
And some of the younger people today may not have been through that experience even in their home life. So coming into a work situation, they expect it to be easier maybe than it is.
Right. And I think that the way everyone is these days, not everybody comes from where I came from with a larger family. So I think you kind of, when you're the youngest of 7, you're fighting your way through the whole group. And siblings have a way of keeping you in check. Whereas if you only have one sibling or no sibling, you're the king or the queen of the house.
Nobody to keep you in check.
Right. But I think that, there's some unsaid things in corporate America that you have to figure out yourself. You have to realize that your boss is not your best friend. It's not your girlfriend. And I think that I've come across a lot of women that want girlfriends, and it's not like that. But it doesn't have to be some sort of competition either. And I've seen that where people are strutting around the office like in the latest outfits and trends and just feeling like they're competing with each other. I think women work better when they support each other and they're just honest. It works better. But they can't micromanage each other either. They got to know what's going on. But there again, there's a lot of supervisors that do not really know what their staff are doing completely or understand all the responsibilities. Especially what I dealt with is most of my supervisors were not in my office. I generally was reporting to like an executive vice president. So I had ones that were like, okay, you're a big girl, you can take care of things. And then I had others where were like looking at every line item on a budget. Oh, what happened here? What happened there? It just depends on the person.
So for a young woman today, what is the secret of success?
Patience.
In what way?
And patience, it will come to you. It's not going to be overnight. It's a marathon. It's not, this quick race that's done. You have to take it in stride. There's going to be good years. There's going to be bad years. It's just, what is the grass is never green. You think it's just greener somewhere else. And then you find out you're still dealing with those
Same
dynamics.
Thing. Because you took them with you, maybe.
Well, you might have, and you don't realize it because that might be your blind spot. So I like reading other people, other executives, and what they've done. There was one lady, she was over the Hearst Company, and her book was Basic Black, and that was a really good book I read. So some books I've read where it was just too not in depth, too light, too fluff. But when you come across some good book recommendations, those help develop you. It's just you got to continue to be active and know what's going on with the changes.
What are some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that you've overcome on your way to blaze trails for other women?
Obstacles. I'm trying to think about that one. I think just the good communication in a large environment and just getting everything in the same type of process. I'm a process person, so it's like it's got to be simplified. So when I took on like the grants were a mess. And so I had to kick some cooks out of the kitchen, basically. There was too many people in the process. The company wasn't getting paid their money. I look at everything in what's the most simplified way to do this? Streamline.
Streamline.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do?
It was all the mergers. It was building the database. I had to build a database to keep all the details of ownership structures. It's just a huge matrix of information. So, but once it was built, it took care of so many functions. And that's where the whole streamlining comes in, because it was able to help us do work faster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of work done in an efficient amount of time.
And you think back to your personal life. What's one of the hardest things you've ever had to deal with in your personal life?
Marriage. We're both very stubborn. So
what's been the secret to your success?
My husband's very supportive. He's always been there. So he's been the rock. You know, he has a very good view of things. So it kind of helps coming back to home, because, I mean, we had a good relationship before we had kids. We didn't have kids right away. And he's just always been there for me. But marriage is not easy. It has its ups and downs, and you're not always on the same page.
What would you say is the hardest thing you've had to overcome in a marriage?
Too many people want out and not trying to work through things. And there was tough times where we had to work through, where we weren't talking. But you work through it.
As a mother, you're not a grandmother yet,
no,
right? As a mother, what are your greatest fears?
Well, there's different ones for different children there. I have a boy and a girl. So just my daughter can be sensitive. And I've been trying to help her over the years to toughen up some of that sensitivity. I mean, but she wants what she wants too. So I think she'll do well in the working world. She's a better negotiator than her mama. And my son, he's real sweet. He's a sweetheart. And I just hope that he is able to do his passions without feeling like putting them aside for the working world. He's an artist, so he has quite a talent. So I don't want him to lose that.
What hurts you the most?
When people lie.
How do you know they're lying? You just find out later?
Find out, yeah. I don't like women that don't support each other. It really bothers me.
What do you not have today that you would really like to have?
What I would like to have, I just want to keep building my business and expanding it. I mean, I see a lot of potential there, and I have a lot of people that I used to work with that are right in my area that I would love to work with them again.
If you had something and could go back and tell your younger self something, what would you tell yourself?
I told you this earlier. Watch your back. You gotta know what's going. There's some things that are unsaid that you gotta learn. You gotta learn some of those. No one's gonna tell you about corporate etiquette. You're gonna have to figure out some things on your own. But just relax and don't take it personal. I would say I would tell my younger self, don't take it personal.
Because you feel that you can almost bring up past situations?
Yeah. Well, sometimes when you have people that work with you and start acting like it's high school, I mean, that whole clique thing, I don't, that's what I said. I don't like that when people don't support each other. Because there's no place for that. Life's short.
Life's short. If you had a do-over, what would it be?
I probably would have started this sooner. I wanted to start this in 2007.
This being?
The business. But the kids were younger then, so you got a good paying job and they need you and everything, and then you just get into this habit and all that. But It's interesting though when I started this, because my sister did ask me, so is it the business you said you wanted to start? And I was like, yes, it is. And it's been rewarding. And I wish I would have done it, but you're stepping out on faith when you're doing it.
What do you like best about owning a business?
The control. I don't like not being in control.
And what do you feel you have control over?
I mean, I just know it all like the back of my hand. I just know what has to be done, and I talk to people and I ask them what they need. But I just like helping them, and I feel like I'm making a difference.
So if you were giving some advice to someone who wanted to start a business, what advice would you give them?
To talk to like a small business administration office about what you need to do to get moving on it. But I would say start up small, off the kitchen table if you have to. It just depends on what their financial situation is, but you can start setting things up before leaving your job. It doesn't have to be necessarily when you leave that job.
What kinds of things should you start up?
Something that you know. You can't just say one day I was going to do this and not have any background in it or any resources. And that's something that I did tell my husband too, which I go back and forth all the time. I'm like, well, if I started it then, it would have been a lot more difficult than now. I have so many more connections, and I have there's so many more social media tools and everything that makes it so much easier than what it was 12, 13 years ago. Or whatever.
And what's the difference primarily then and now?
Then and now, well, the kids are bigger.
Yeah.
They're self-sufficient now too.
And that makes it easier.
Yeah. So
what would you like to leave our listeners with on just any thoughts that you have?
Well, I just say think long and hard and watch when you're going through things. Just learn things from different people and be open, receptive, even when it might be somebody that's difficult. But find yourself mentors, I would say. Mentors are wonderful. It doesn't have to be somebody that's in your supervisory chain of command. You can find somebody that is making a difference and maybe sit down and talk to them about some areas that you think that you would like maybe more of a direct mentorship with them.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and advice with us.
Thanks.
And we wish you just lots of success in your business.
Thanks, man.
I hope you enjoyed listening to another story of the impact of trailblazers. Visit our website at trailblazersimpact.com and connect with us at hello@trailblazersimpact.com. And remember, you must learn a new way to think before you can master a new way to be.